and it's irrelevant. It makes sense to the mind because if the mind gets the idea that there is no one, it hears a teaching or it reads a book, the mind does, that there is no one, right? It seems to make sense for the mind then to examine all the different layers of the person one by one in order to discover that that is not what the person is. I mean, it's perfectly logical. So, to the mind it makes sense to ask myself, am I my thoughts? Obviously I'm not my thoughts because my thoughts are constantly changing and yet there is this sense of a person here. Am I my body? Of course not. This body has changed enormously since I was 5 years old. It's not the same body. It's probably not a single cell in the body that's the same as when I was 5 years old. And yet there's this sense of identity. Am I my feelings? Of course not. My feelings may be constantly changing. Maybe not constantly, but certainly changing. I feel happy, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel jealous. There's still this sense of identity. So it makes perfect sense to the mind to self-inquire, to look at these various levels of what a person may be. The idea is that by looking at each level, I discover that that is not who I am, and I peel that level away. And then I get to a deeper level. And I examine that and I discover that is not who I am, and I peel that away. And when I have worked through all these false levels of what the self is, I will be left eventually, when I have peeled away the last false idea of what the person is, I will be left with the truth, a word which we should be extremely cautious of. I will be left with the truth that I am no one. And, as we were talking before, I am everything. In being nothing, I am also everything. There's only one problem with this. It's a person who's doing the self-inquiry. So it is completely and utterly futile. Because what you start off with is a person who thinks they're somebody, and what you end up with is a person who knows that they're nobody, but they're still a person. So what difference does it make?
Entertainment between birth and death.
Like everything else.
Like everything else.
Like everything else. A bit of time structuring. For a person, there is an existential problem. We are born and then we die. And by and large, these two events tend to take care of themselves. We don't tend to have to do anything about them. But in between, as the existentialists notice, there is this thing called time. And time has to be filled. Time has to be structured in some way, and self-inquiry is one way of structuring it, not a very entertaining way. There are much more entertaining ways of structuring time, being a Formula One motor racing driver, for example, or founding a religion, or becoming the pope of a religion that already exists, or making lots of money, or having lots of lovers. All of these are probably much more entertaining ways of structuring time and self-inquiring, and none of them have any more or any less meaning